Welcome to the new academic year. Today I am going to take Unit 17 in Science 2 for you. The topic of the lesson is Animal Kingdom. We have seen variety of organisms living around us. Nearly 1.5 million species of organisms were described, but they are different from one another in many aspects. They exhibit variation. Variation means differences. So they exhibit differences in their structural appearance, internal structure, behavior and the mode of living. This versatile nature of the organisms forms the basis of diversity. That's why we have seen different varieties of organisms around us. So the diversity of these living organisms can be studied effectively when they are arranged and grouped in a particular order and a systematic way, so that classification of organisms is very essential to study the diversity in the living organisms. So the method of arranging the organisms into groups on the basis of their similarities. Similarities means the same characters and the differences. It is called as classification. So what is classification? The method of arranging the organisms into groups, different categories on the basis of based on their similarities and the differences is called as classification. So it is also called as taxonomy. Taxonomy is the science of classification. So why should we learn this taxonomy? Because it helps to study the variety of organisms. There is a huge variety of living organisms around us. We cannot go and learn about each organism individually because it's a difficult task. So, but when we arrange them into a proper group in a systematic manner, then it will be very easy for us to learn an effective study of these living organisms. So, in taxonomy, the word taxa means group. So, taxonomy is nothing but grouping the organisms. The first systematic approach of this classification of organisms was done by a Swedish botanist named Carolus Linnaeus. So what does he did? He did the first systematic approach of the classification of organisms, and he is a Swedish botanist. Swedish means he belongs to the country Sweden, so that we call him a Swedish botanist. And he also introduced the standard system of naming the organisms in terms of genus and species. In your previous class, you might have learnt about the genus name and the species name. And this system of naming the organisms was introduced by this Carolus Linnaeus. So let's enter into the subject now with the classification of living organisms. Classification of organisms is nothing but ordering the organisms into different groups on the basis of their similarities, dissimilarities and the relationships. In last year, you have learnt about the 5 kingdom classification. What are the 5 kingdoms of classification? They are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So what are the 5 kingdom classification? Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So this classification was done on the basis of their cell structure, the mode of nutrition, that is whether they are autotrophic or heterotrophic, and in the cell structure in the sense whether it is unicellular or multicellular, and the body organization, whether there are different organs or tissues are present in the body or not, and the method of reproduction. So based on this 5 kingdom of classification was done. And on the basis of hierarchy of classification, organisms are separated into small groups, and these forms the units of classification. Hierarchy means nothing but the different levels. So different levels of classification consists of small groups of organisms, and that each group is denoted as the basic unit of classification. So now we are going to learn the different levels of classification. So the first one is species, and this is the lowest taxonomic category. It belongs to the least level, the bottommost level in the taxonomic category. For example, when you take large Indian parakeet and the green parrot. This green parrot is nothing but the common parrot that we have seen around us. They both belong to the same genus, but they are in the different species. For example, the binomial name of Indian parakeet is Psittacula eupatra, and the green parrot is Psittacula crameri. So they both, even though they both belong to the same genus, they belong to different species, so that they can't interbreed. We cannot cross them. They both can't able to reproduce together. So this is the lowest level of taxonomic position, that is species. Then the next level of taxonomy, that is the genus. So here the group of closely related species are categorized. For example, when we take the Indian wolf and the Indian jackal, there are many similarities among them, but few differences are there. So that they both were grouped under the same genus. The binomial name of Indian wolf is Canis palpus, and the Indian jackal is Canis auris. So they both were categorized under the same genus, that is Canis, because they have many related characters. Then the next level of classification in the hierarchy is family. So the group of same genus together comes under the groups of genera with several common characters comes under the same family. So here I have taken leopard, tiger and cat as an example. So they have, even though they are different in many aspects, they are similar in some characters. They all belong to the same cat family. The name of that cat family is Felidae. Then when we come to the next level, that is order. So number of related families with common characters or common features are grouped under the same order. For example, when we take monkeys, apes and man, they belong to different family, but they were grouped under the same order, that is order primates. So I hope you understood this clearly. Let's move on to the next hierarchy of classification, that is class. The next, will you do that? Is there any common character among them? Then how can we group them under the same class? They have some common features. So the animals with similar orders are grouped under the same class. So here the common character among these animals. Can you guess what are the common characters among these animals? What is the common character between a rabbit and a man, even a whale and chimpanzee? Let me tell you, that is nothing but the presence of skin. So the body of these animals are covered with skin. And the second character is the presence of mammary glands. So mammary glands are nothing but the glands which suckles the young ones after they born. So these two common features have been seen in these animals. That is the presence of skin and the presence of mammary glands. So that these animals are grouped under the same class, that is class Mammalia. Then the next level of classification, that is phylum. So here the mammals, birds, reptiles, frogs and fishes are grouped under the same phylum, that is phylum Chordata. So because they have certain common character, that is nothing but the presence of notochord, or it is also called as backbone. So these animals have the backbone, so that these animals are grouped under the same phylum, and the name of the phylum is phylum Chordata. And when we come to the kingdom, this is the highest category in the hierarchy of classification. And here the microorganisms, plants and animals are grouped under the same kingdom because they have the same fundamental character. Even though they have lots of differences among them, some fundamental characters are same among them, so that they were grouped under the same kingdom. So the taxa of living organisms in a hierarchy of categories are as follows. So let me write it so that you can easily understand. So this is the hierarchy of classification. So which is the highest level in the hierarchy of classification? Yes, that is kingdom. Then next to kingdom, phylum. So the first level in the hierarchy of classification is kingdom. The second one is phylum. Then the phylum is followed by class, and the class is followed by order, and order is followed by family, and then genus, and finally the species. So these are the different taxa in the hierarchy of classification: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus and species. So in many interrelated species comes under the genus, and animals having the common character among the different genera comes under the family, and the families with similar characters comes under order, and the order with similar characters comes under same class, and the animals which have the common characters in different classes comes under phylum, and the highest hierarchy of classification, that is kingdom, it has some fundamental characters which are common among the animals. So let's move on how this classification is done. When we come to the basis of classification, based on certain characters, the animals are classified into different groups. So now we are going to learn what are those characters, on what basis the animals are classified. So the first one is level of organization. So based on the level of organization, the animals are grouped into unicellular and multicellular based on their cell, tissue, organ and organ systems. You know what is a cell? It is the basic unit of life. All the living things are made of cell. And many cells combine and form a tissue. And many tissues combines and form an organ. And many organs which are doing a same function comes under the organ system. And many organ system together form a living thing. It is the basic organization of all living things. So based on their level of organization, whether it is made of only one cell, unicellular means single celled organisms. So based on the number of cells, whether it is a unicellular or multicellular, whether the tissues are present or not, whether the organs are developed in that animal or not, whether the organ systems are well developed or partially developed. So based on this, the organisms are classified. Then the second character which helps in the classification process is body symmetry. It is nothing but the plane of arrangement of body parts. How the body parts are arranged in the body. Based on that, the animals are classified. So this based on the body symmetry, there are two types of symmetry. They are bilateral symmetry and radial symmetry. What do you mean by two? So here you can get two halves of the animals. So the body parts, the parts of the body are arranged on a central axis. So if you cut the animal along a central axis, you can get two equal halves. So the example for bilateral symmetry are frog and man. So let me draw the rough diagram to explain this clearly to you. So this is the rough structure of a human being. So along the central axis, when you cut, you can get two equal halves, two identical halves. When you cut on any other place, you can't get same equal halves, identical halves. In only one plane, you can get two parts. So this kind of arrangement is called as bilateral symmetry. And when you come to the radial symmetry, here the parts are arranged around the central axis, so that when you cut the animal in any plane, in any direction, you can get the equal halves. Example for radial symmetry are hydra and starfish. You people are familiar with starfish. So let me draw and explain with the help of the starfish diagram. So let me draw the starfish first. So here, not only in one plane, but when you cut the animal in any direction, you can get two equal halves. This sort of arrangement, this sort of symmetry is called as radial symmetry. So this character is also used to classify the organisms. Then the third character which helps in the classification or grouping of organisms is the germ layers. So these germ layers are developed during the embryonic stage. When the embryo grows, when a young one starts to grow, before it will born, that is the embryonic stage. So during that time, these germ layers are present, and when the animal gets mature, when it becomes an adult, it develops into different organs. So based on the number of germ layers, we can categorize the organisms into two groups. They are diploblastic animals and triploblastic animals. Diploblastic and triploblastic. What do you mean by di? Di means two. And tri means 3. So when there are 2 layers in the germ layers in the embryonic developmental stage, then those animals are called as diploblastic animals. And when 3 germ layers are present, then they are called as triploblastic animals. And the diploblastic animals have 2 germ layers. They are ectoderm and the endoderm. So animals with 2 germ layers are called diploblastic animals, and they have ectoderm and endoderm. And the example for diploblastic animal is hydra. And when you come to the triploblastic animals, as I said earlier, they have 3 germ layers. They are outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and inner endoderm. So 3 layers are present, so that these animals are called as triploblastic animals. Example for triploblastic animal is rabbit. So during the embryonic stage, before the rabbit born, when it is in the mother's womb, it has 3 germ layers, and when it starts to grow, when it gets mature, this germ layers gets differentiated into different organs. Then the next character for the basis of classification is the presence of coelom. So coelom is nothing but the fluid filled body cavity. So what is the 4th character? Coelom. It is nothing but the fluid filled body cavity, and it separates the digestive tract from the body wall. And based on the presence or absence of body cavity, animals are grouped into 3 categories. They are acoelomates. Acoelomates means absence of coelom. So in these animals, coelom or the body cavity is absent. Absence of coelom, fluid filled body cavity. For the example for acoelomates are tapeworm. So there is no body cavity or coelom in these animals, so that they are called as acoelomates. And the second one is pseudocoelomates. Pseudocoelomates. And what do you mean by pseudo? You have learned this term in amoeba. We learned pseudopodia, false feet. So pseudo means false. So here coelom is present, but that coelom is not a true coelom. It's a false coelom. So that it is called as pseudocoelomate. And the animals which comes under this category are called as pseudocoelomate animals. And the example for pseudocoelomate is roundworm. And the third group of animals are obviously the animals with true coelom. They are called as eucoelomates or coelomates. So in these animals, the true coelom, the true body cavity is present, so that they are called as eucoelomates or coelomates. And the example for eucoelomates and coelomates are earthworm and the frogs. So these are the examples for eucoelomates. So we studied the basis of classification. So based on certain characters, the animals are grouped into different categories. In that first we studied about the level of organization. So based on the level of organization, animals are grouped into unicellular and multicellular. Second character is body symmetry. So based on the body symmetry, we can group the animals into two categories, that is bilateral symmetrical animals and radially symmetrical animals. Then we studied the third character, that is the germ layers. When two germ layers are present, then it is called as diploblastic organism. When three germ layers are present, then they are called as triploblastic organisms. Then the fourth character is the presence of coelom, that is the body fluid cavity, the fluid filled body cavity. So based on that, three groups are there. Acoelomates, that is absence of coelom; pseudocoelomates, that is the presence of false coelom; and eucoelomates, presence of true coelom. Acoelomate example, tapeworm; pseudocoelomate, roundworm; eucoelomate, earthworm, frog. Even human beings, we are also eucoelomated animals. This is an overview of the classification of kingdom Animalia. So kingdom Animalia includes all the multicellular animals, and based on the level of organization, this kingdom Animalia is divided into two groups, that is cellular level of organization and tissue level or organ level or organ system level of organization. So based on the cellular level organization, there is one phylum which is called as phylum Porifera. Then when we come to the tissue, organ or organ system level of organization, these animals are divided into two groups based on the symmetry. So what are the two types of symmetry that we learned? Radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. So radial symmetry is present in certain animals, and those animals are grouped under phylum Coelenterata. Then when we come to the bilateral symmetrical organisms, based on the presence of coelom or body cavity, these animals are divided into three groups. They are eucoelomates, pseudocoelomates and acoelomates. Acoelomate, pseudocoelomate, coelomate. So the animals that have no coelom, they are categorized in phylum Platyhelminthes, and the pseudocoelomate animals are categorized in the phylum Aschelminthes, and the coelomated animals are divided into 6 phylum. They are Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata and Chordata. So let me rub this so that you can clearly see the names of the phylum. So I'll read one more time for you. The first one is phylum Porifera, and the second one is phylum Coelenterata, then phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Aschelminthes, phylum Annelida, phylum Arthropoda, phylum Mollusca, phylum Echinodermata, phylum Hemichordata, and then finally phylum Chordata. So apart from this, the animal kingdom is also grouped into two categories based on the presence of notochord. So if the notochord is present, if an organism possesses the notochord, then those animals are grouped under phylum Chordata. So the kingdom Animalia, it is divided into two groups based on the presence or absence of the notochord. So when an animal do not possesses the notochord, then it belongs to phylum invertebrata or non-chordata. And when the notochord is present, then those animals are grouped under the next group, that is phylum Chordata. Actually, what does this notochord mean? It is nothing but a small rod-like structure, and it is present in the mid-dorsal line on the embryonic developmental organisms. So what do you mean by mid-dorsal line? Mid means middle. Dorsal, so the dorsal is nothing but the upper side of any organisms. For us, for human beings, our back side is the dorsal side. So this notochord is nothing but a small rod-like structure which is present in the mid-dorsal line during the embryonic development. When the animal is in a form of embryo, it is developed, it is present. And when the animal gets mature in adults, this notochord is transformed into, it is changed into the backbone. So the animals which have the backbone are comes under chordates, and animals without backbone are categorized in invertebrates. Let's move on to the next topic. Binomial nomenclature. It is nothing but naming the animals with two names. Bi means two, nom means name. So naming the animals with two names is called as binomial nomenclature, and this method was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. And as I said, it has two names. The first name is called as genus name, and the second name is called as the species name. And the first letter in the genus name must be denoted in capital letter, and the first letter in the species name must be denoted only in small letter. So here I have written some animals common names and their binomial names. Let me read it out for you. Amoeba, its binomial name is Amoeba proteus. So here this is the first name, which is the genus name, and the second name, that is the species name. And the first letter in genus name must be written in caps, and the species name must be written in small, or else the first letter in genus must be started with caps and all other letters must be in small letter. So the binomial name of amoeba is Amoeba proteus, and the binomial name of tapeworm is Taenia solium. And this tapeworm is nothing but a small worm which lives in the intestine of the human beings. And leech, it is nothing but the bloodsucker. You know the bloodsucker, yes? So bloodsucker is the leech, and its binomial name is Hirudinaria granulosa. And the binomial name of cockroach is Periplaneta americana. So this is the genus name, the first letter in caps, and species name, first letter in small. And Rana hexadactyla is the binomial name of frog. Corvus splendens, it is the binomial name of crow. Felis is the binomial name of cat. And for human beings, for man, the binomial name is Homo sapiens. So hope you got it clearly. Let me summarize what I taught you today. So first we studied about the classification. We learnt the different level of classification, that is hierarchy of classification. The highest level is kingdom, then phylum, and then family, class, order, family, genus and species. Then we studied the basis for classification, on what basis, which are the characters that helps in the classification of organism. Under that we studied the level of organization, then symmetry, germ layers, and then the coelom or the body cavity. Then we studied about the binomial nomenclature. In next class, let's discuss about the different phylum, the salient features, the important characters of different phylum which we learned today. So, I hope you got the concept clearly. Try to finish off the worksheet and submit as fast as possible. Thank you, children.